I'll never forget the moment my phone buzzed in the middle of class. It was one of those ordinary Tuesday afternoons, the kind where you're just trying to keep your eyes open while the teacher goes on about some war or treaty that feels a million miles away from your actual life. My best friend Chloe was next to me, drawing silly little cartoons in the corner of her notebook and nudging me to look at them. I laughed under my breath, trying not to get caught. Everything felt normal, boring even. Then I saw my screen light up. Mom. At first, I almost didn't answer. She never called during school. If she had something to say, she'd usually text, and even that was rare during the day. But something inside me told me to pick up. I slipped the phone under the desk, shielding it from my teacher's view, and pressed it to my ear. Her voice wasn't calm. It wasn't the everyday, "Hi, honey, how's your day?" voice. It was low, sharp, trembling in a way that immediately made my stomach drop. "Emily," she whispered, as if she was hiding from someone. "Don't get in his car. Do you hear me? Stay inside. Don't go with him. I'll explain later." I froze. My hand tightened around the phone. Don't get in his car? I had no idea what she was talking about. "Mom, what are you—" I started to ask, but she cut me off. "Promise me, Emily. You stay put. Don't go outside with him. Just wait for me. Please." Her voice cracked on that last word. I'd never heard my mom beg like that. My chest tightened, a cold wave rushing through me. Still confused, I glanced toward the big classroom window that overlooked the parking lot. And there he was, Mark Miller, Chloe's dad. He was leaning casually against his shiny black SUV, wearing his usual button-up shirt with the sleeves rolled halfway. When he noticed me looking, he lifted his hand and waved. Not a weird wave, just friendly like he always did. Like the wave you give to a daughter's friend you've known for years. I felt my lips tug into a reflexive smile. I even started to raise my hand back. That's how normal it looked. That's how safe it felt. But then my mom's words replayed in my head like a broken record. "Don't get in his car." I lowered my hand slowly. My throat went dry. Beside me, Chloe caught sight of her dad through the window, too. Her face lit up. She nudged me with her elbow. "Hey, Dad's here already. Want to come over after school? He'll give us a ride." She whispered it with a grin, like it was the most natural thing in the world. And normally, it would have been. I'd been in that car dozens of times. He'd driven us to the movies, to volleyball practice, to the mall. I'd eaten dinner at their house more times than I could count. He wasn't just Chloe's dad. He was practically family. But now every ounce of trust I'd had was colliding with the urgency in my mom's voice. I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew my mom wasn't. Someone who panicked easily. If she was whispering like that, if her voice was shaking, something was seriously wrong. I looked back out at him. His smile was easy, his stance relaxed. But suddenly, that normal image didn't comfort me. It made my skin prickle. I noticed things I'd never noticed before. The way his eyes stayed locked on me a little too long. The way his smile didn't quite reach them. I could feel Chloe's excitement radiating next to me, completely unaware of the dread clawing at my chest. The classroom clock ticked toward the bell. In just a few minutes, the halls would flood with students heading outside. I knew Chloe would expect me to walk out with her, to climb into that SUV like always. But I couldn't stop hearing my mom's voice, that desperate whisper, that plea. "Emily?" Chloe whispered again. "You're coming, right?" My heart pounded so hard I thought the whole class could hear it. My pencil slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the desk. The sound made my teacher glance in our direction, but I barely noticed. My eyes were still locked on the man outside. That's when the realization hit me. This wasn't just some random call. This wasn't my mom overreacting. She knew something I didn't, something dangerous. And in that instant, one truth became crystal clear. If I stepped into that car, I might not come back. The day had started off like any other. I remember waking up to the faint sound of my mom, Rachel, calling from the kitchen, her voice warm but commanding. "Emily, you're going to miss the bus if you don't get moving." That was her rhythm every morning, half stern, half loving. I threw on my favorite hoodie, the soft gray one that always made me feel comfortable, and ran downstairs. Mom was rushing around, pouring herself coffee while simultaneously tossing a granola bar into my backpack. She was a single mom, and she carried everything on her shoulders, her job at the hospital, raising me, paying the bills. But she never let me feel the weight of it. She was my anchor. even if I didn't always appreciate it at 16. "Did you finish your history paper?" she asked, eyeing me like she already knew the answer. "Almost," I mumbled through a mouthful of toast. She gave me that classic mom look, equal parts disappointment and amusement before pulling me into a quick hug. "We'll talk about it tonight. Just be safe today, okay?" I didn't think much of it at the time. When I got to school, everything felt routine. The chatter in the hallways, the squeak of sneakers on the linoleum floors, the smell of pencil shavings and floor cleaner. Chloe was already waiting by my locker, her bright red backpack slung over one shoulder, her brown hair pulled into a messy ponytail. "Finally," she said, rolling her eyes. "You're always the last one here." That was Chloe. Bubbly, playful, and always ready with a joke. We'd been inseparable since middle school. Sleepovers, secrets, inside jokes that nobody else could follow. We were practically sisters. Her family treated me like one of their own. And her dad, Mark Miller, he was one of those parents who made kids feel comfortable. He told dumb dad jokes, bought us snacks after volleyball practice, and let us blast music in his car without ever complaining. Teachers at school knew him by name because he volunteered at fundraisers and sports games. To everyone around us, he was the kind of father you trusted without question. That morning, Chloe was in a great mood. She leaned close, whispering about her plans for after school. "Dad's picking us up later. He said we can go grab milkshakes before heading to my place. You're coming, right?" "Yeah, totally," I said, grinning. It was the most normal thing in the world, goofing off with my best friend and hanging out at her house. We slid into our seats in history class, side by side as always. Mr. Harris, our teacher, was droning on about some European treaty, his monotone filling the room. The clock ticked slowly, the kind of ticking that makes you feel like time itself is stuck. I remember doodling in the margin of my notebook when Chloe nudged me. She had drawn a goofy caricature of Mr. Harris with exaggerated eyebrows and a giant nose. I stifled a laugh, covering my mouth with my sleeve. "Stop," I whispered, though my shoulders shook with laughter. She grinned. "What? He looks exactly like that." For a moment, everything was light, silly, and safe. That's how it always was with Chloe. With her, I didn't overthink. I didn't worry about grades, about money, about my mom working late shifts. She was my escape. And sitting there, it felt like the day would be just like all the others, mundane but comforting. The rhythm of our lives was predictable. Go to school, joke around in class, get picked up by Mark, and spend the afternoon eating snacks and watching movies at Chloe's house. I didn't notice then how easily I trusted that routine, how much I relied on the familiarity of Chloe's dad's car pulling up in front of the school, how quickly I climbed into it without a second thought. That was the picture of my life before it all cracked. Just a teenager, caught between the safety of my mom's world and the freedom of being with my best friend. Looking back, the details feel heavier. My mom's extra-long hug that morning, the way Chloe's dad's wave seemed so casual outside the window later. The little moments that felt harmless but were actually shadows of something I didn't see coming. At that point, though, I was just Emily Carter, 16 years old, a little careless, a little naive, and completely unprepared for how fast everything was about to change. Because in just a few minutes, that comforting world I knew so well was going to collapse. The buzz of my phone under the desk pulled me out of Chloe's whispered jokes. At first, I thought it was just a random notification, but when I glanced down and saw Mom flashing on the screen, I hesitated. She never called me during school. Never. I slid the phone into my lap, pressing it close to my ear so Mr. Harris wouldn't notice. "Mom, what's wrong?" I whispered. Her voice hit me like ice water. It was low, rushed, almost shaky. "Emily, don't get in his car. Do you hear me? Stay inside the school. Don't go with him. I'll explain later." I blinked, my brain struggling to process her words. What are you talking about? Who?" She cut me off sharper this time, almost panicked. "Promise me, don't get in the car. Just wait for me. Please, Emily. Please." The urgency in her tone sent my pulse racing. My mom wasn't the type to scare easily. She worked in a hospital. She handled emergencies every single day with calm, steady hands. For her voice to sound like this, like she was fighting to hold back fear, it shook me to my core. My fingers trembled around the phone. "Mom, you're scaring me." Whose car? What's happening? But before she could answer, Mr. Harris's voice boomed from the front of the room. "Miss Carter, phone away." Now I flinched, my stomach dropping. Mom whispered one last time, so faint I almost didn't catch it. "Don't get in his car." Then the line went dead. My heart hammered as I shoved the phone back into my pocket. My head whipped toward the window, desperate to make sense of her words. And that's when I saw him, Mark Miller. Chloe's dad was leaning against his SUV, just like he'd done 100 times before. He spotted me instantly and lifted his hand in a friendly wave, smiling like everything was perfectly normal, and for a split second, it felt normal. That was the worst part. His smile wasn't creepy. His wave wasn't strange. It was the same wave I'd seen when he drove us to volleyball practice, the same smile he gave when he handed us milkshakes through the drive-through window. But now, with my mom's warning echoing in my ears, that familiar image twisted into something that made my skin crawl. Beside me, Chloe followed my gaze. Her face lit up. "Hey, Dad's here." "He's early. That means we can go grab food before heading to my place. You're coming, right?" Her voice was so casual, so happy. She had no idea. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My throat was dry, my tongue heavy. My brain screamed to say something, anything but what? "Your dad's outside and my mom just told me not to get in his car?" It didn't make sense. The classroom clock ticked louder in my ears. Only 5 minutes until the bell. 5 minutes until the halls filled with kids spilling out the doors. 5 minutes until Chloe expected me to walk with her straight into that car. Panic clawed at my chest. What was I supposed to do? I turned back to Chloe, forcing a shaky smile. Maybe. I don't know yet. I might have to go home after class." She frowned, confusion flickering across her face. "What? Why?" You always come over. Her disappointment stung. She didn't understand and I couldn't explain. Not yet. I glanced at the window again. Mark's smile hadn't wavered. His eyes were locked on the school doors, scanning for us. And this time, I noticed something different. His smile didn't reach his eyes. His gaze was too sharp, too focused, like he wasn't just waiting, he was watching. My chest tightened, every nerve in my body screaming to stay put. But my mind raced with questions. Why had my mom sounded so terrified? What could she possibly know about Chloe's dad? He was trusted by everyone, teachers, parents, even me. The bell rang, jolting me. Chairs screeched as students stood, shoving books into backpacks, laughing, shouting, rushing toward freedom. Chloe grabbed my arm, excitement bubbling in her voice. "Come on, let's go before the line at Sonic gets too long." I froze in place. My mom's voice thundered in my memory. "Don't get in his car, promise me." Every instinct battled inside me. One part wanted to believe everything was fine, to laugh off my mom's panic and climb into that familiar SUV. Another part, the part with goosebumps rising on my arms and dread tightening in my stomach, knew I couldn't. I swallowed hard. My feet refused to move. "Em? What's wrong?" Chloe asked, tilting her head. I forced a smile that didn't match the fear burning in my chest. I'll explain later. But I didn't move. I couldn't. And deep down, I knew this wasn't just about disappointing my best friend. This was about survival. The hallway was already filling with noise. The scrape of chairs, lockers slamming, students laughing as they spilled out into the corridor. Normally, that sound meant freedom, the end of another long school day. But for me, it felt like a countdown to something I couldn't escape. Chloe tugged at my sleeve, her face bright with excitement. "Come on, Em." "Dad's waiting. Let's go before everyone crowds the parking lot." I hesitated, my feet planted firmly against the linoleum floor. My mom's voice thundered in my head. "Don't get in his car. Promise me." I forced a shaky laugh. I think I should wait for my mom today." Chloe blinked, confused. "What? Why? You never ride with her. She always works late anyway." She wasn't wrong. Mom usually didn't pick me up from school. And Chloe's dad had always been the safe, convenient alternative. It had become such a routine that Chloe couldn't imagine me suddenly refusing. I don't feel good," I lied, clutching my stomach as if it might sell the excuse. "Maybe I should just wait." Chloe frowned, her playful expression fading. "Seriously? You've been fine all day. What's really going on?" The truth was clawing at my throat, but I couldn't force it out. How could I tell her that my mom had whispered a warning like we were in the middle of some crime show? How could I accuse her dad of something I didn't even understand myself? So I shrugged, hoping she'd let it go. I'll explain later. I promise. But Chloe wasn't satisfied. She crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing in suspicion. Is this about my dad? Did your mom say something? She doesn't like him sometimes, I can tell. The words hit me like a slap. My chest tightened, heat rising in my face. She had no idea. She couldn't know. I shook my head quickly. No, it's not that. I can't go today. That's all. Her disappointment was plain. She dropped her arms and let out a heavy sigh, glancing toward the window where her dad still stood. He raised his hand in another casual wave, his smile unshaken, as if he knew she'd be out any second. Fine, Chloe muttered, her voice sharp with frustration. But you're being weird. I'll text you later. She spun on her heel, her ponytail whipping behind her as she joined the flow of students heading toward the doors. I watched her go, guilt gnawing at my insides. Every fiber of me wanted to run after her, to explain, to not let her feel abandoned. But then I saw Mark shift his weight against the SUV, his eyes sweeping the crowd, scanning, waiting. And suddenly, that guilt was replaced with cold, hard fear. I slipped back into the classroom, pretending to fumble with my bag as if I'd forgotten something. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped my books. I kept glancing toward the door, terrified that Chloe would come storming back in, demanding answers, dragging me outside with her. Minutes stretched like hours. My stomach churned, my palms slick with sweat. I knew Chloe would climb into that car, and there was nothing I could do to stop her. Not without sounding crazy, not without proof. But at least I had made my choice. I had chosen to listen to my mom, even if it meant hurting my best friend's feelings, even if it meant standing alone in this crowded, noisy hallway. The decision felt like betrayal, but underneath the guilt was a fragile thread of relief. Still, questions whirled in my head. What if I'm wrong? What if Mom is overreacting? What if I just ruined my friendship for nothing? And yet, no matter how much doubt clawed at me, I couldn't shake the image of my mom's voice breaking as she whispered, "Please, Emily, please." I took a deep breath and pressed my back against the cool cinder block wall, watching the stream of students flow past me like a current I refused to step into. My heart pounded in my ears, every second stretching tighter and tighter. From across the room, one of my classmates, Jason, raised an eyebrow. "Aren't you leaving?" he asked casually, slinging his backpack over one shoulder. "Yeah," I mumbled, "just waiting." He shrugged and disappeared into the crowd. The moment he was gone, I leaned against the desk, my hands gripping the edge until my knuckles turned white. I wasn't sure if I'd just made the smartest decision of my life, or the dumbest, but I knew one thing. I wasn't getting into that car. The hallway emptied quickly, the stampede of footsteps fading into the late afternoon buzz of the parking lot. I stood frozen just inside the classroom, gripping my backpack straps so tightly the seams dug into my palms. My body screamed to move, but my legs felt locked in place. From the window, I could see Chloe bounding toward her dad's SUV, her ponytail bouncing, her smile bright and carefree. She had no idea what I was wrestling with, no idea what my mom had said. To her, this was just another after-school routine. My heart hammered as I pressed myself against the wall, watching. The air in my chest was sharp, almost painful, like I couldn't get a full breath. And then, just as Chloe reached for the car door, red and blue lights cut across the parking lot. 2 police cruisers roared up the street, their sirens wailing, tires screeching as they swerved into the school's curb. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Students froze mid-step, conversations cutting off into stunned silence. Teachers by the entrance turned toward the noise, eyes wide. The doors to both cruisers flew open, and uniformed officers sprinted toward Mark Miller's SUV. Their voices were loud, commanding, but in the chaos, I couldn't catch every word. All I knew was the sound of authority. "Stop! Hands where we can see them!" Chloe spun in confusion, her hand still on the door handle. "Dad!" she cried, her voice high and shaky. Mark's smile vanished. His body stiffened, his jaw tightening as his eyes darted toward the approaching officers. "Get back inside, Chloe! one officer shouted, grabbing her arm and pulling her away from the car. She stumbled back, bewildered, her face pale. I stood glued to the window, my breath caught in my throat. It felt like I was watching a movie in slow motion, but this wasn't fiction. This was real. Mark raised his hands reluctantly, his eyes cold and burning. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice booming across the lot. "You can't just—" But the officers weren't hesitating. In seconds, one had him by the arm, slamming him against the side of his own SUV, while another snapped cold metal cuffs around his wrists. Gasps erupted from the crowd of students gathered at the school doors. Whispers flew like wildfire. "What's happening? Why are they arresting him?" Chloe screamed, tears springing to her eyes. "Stop! That's my dad. What are you doing? He didn't do anything." She struggled against the officer holding her back, her voice cracking with desperation. Inside, my stomach twisted so violently I thought I might throw up. My best friend was watching her father, the man she adored, the man I thought I knew, being shoved into the back of a police car. And the worst part? My mom had known. She had known something I didn't, something that made her voice tremble with fear. Mark lifted his head once before ducking into the cruiser, and in that split second, his eyes locked with mine through the glass. It was like being pierced straight through. His stare wasn't confused or scared. It was furious, cold, almost like a warning. My breath hitched, and I stumbled back from the window as if the distance could shield me from the weight of that glare. An officer slammed the cruiser door shut, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the heavy silence. The crowd outside was buzzing with disbelief. Some kids were crying, others were whispering frantically, phones already out recording the chaos. Teachers tried to corral students back inside, their voices shaky with shock. But I couldn't move. My knees felt weak, my hands trembling as I gripped the desk for balance. My mom's voice played again in my mind. "Don't get in his car. I'll explain later." If I had ignored her, if I had gone with Chloe like I always did, I would have been in that car. I would have been sitting in the seat next to him when the officers arrived. And maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't have been safe at all. Chloe's sobs echoed even from where I stood inside. She was crumpled on the curb, begging for answers, reaching toward the car as it pulled away with her father inside. I wanted to run to her. I wanted to hug her, to tell her it would be okay, but the truth was clawing at me. Nothing about this was okay. Nothing would ever be the same again. As the police cars drove off, the flashing lights fading down the street, the silence they left behind was deafening. My world, Chloe's world, everything we thought we knew, had just shattered in front of the entire school. And in the middle of it all, one truth burned into me like fire. My mom had just saved my life. That night, the house was unusually quiet. Normally, Mom and I would chat over dinner or I'd have the TV humming in the background while I worked on homework. But after what I'd seen at school, the silence, the cuffs, Chloe's broken sobs, silence felt safer. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the untouched plate of spaghetti in front of me. My appetite had vanished hours earlier. My mind replayed the scene over and over like a nightmare, stuck on loop. Chloe reaching for her dad's car door, the police shouting, his eyes locking on mine. Every detail felt burned into me. Mom set her coffee mug down and sat across from me, her hands wrapped tightly around the ceramic as though she needed the warmth to steady herself. She looked exhausted, her eyes red from either tears or stress. I wasn't sure which. "Emily," she began softly, her voice steady but weighed down. "You deserve to know the truth now." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Mom, what was that? Why did you tell me not to go with him?" She took a deep breath, as if choosing her words carefully. "Mark Miller has been under investigation for months. The police had reason to believe he was grooming young girls, luring them into situations where they weren't safe. One of the detectives called me right before school ended, told me they were moving in today. They didn't want you anywhere near him." The words hit me like a physical blow. Grooming. Luring, dangerous. My chest tightened, my pulse pounding in my ears. "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "That can't be right. He's Chloe's dad. He took us for ice cream. He joked with us." Mom reached across the table, taking my hand firmly. I know how much you trusted him. That's what makes people like him so dangerous. They make themselves seem safe, even lovable. That's how they hide what they really are. Tears welled in my eyes. The betrayal cut deeper than I could explain. Someone who had felt like family, someone I had been alone with countless times, had been hiding something monstrous. My voice cracked. If you hadn't called me... Mom squeezed my hand tighter. That's why I called. The moment I knew I had to protect you, I couldn't risk it. Not for a second I pressed my lips together, the weight of her words sinking in. She had saved me. I didn't want to imagine what might have happened if I had gotten into that car. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A message from Chloe. What did you know? Why didn't you come with me? Did you know this was going to happen? The text blurred as tears filled my eyes. My heart ached for her. She had just watched her dad, the man she adored, get dragged away in handcuffs. Her world had shattered in front of the entire school, and she was left standing in the pieces. I typed back, slowly, carefully. I didn't know everything, but my mom warned me, and I listened. I didn't want to risk it. I'm so sorry, Chloe. I'm here for you, no matter what. For a long time, she didn't reply. When she finally did, her words were short and raw. I don't know who to trust anymore. My chest tightened at her pain. She wasn't just losing her dad, she was losing the very foundation of trust in her life. The following days were heavy with whispers at school. Everyone had an opinion. Some kids couldn't believe it, swearing Mark was innocent. Others claimed they always had a bad feeling. Rumors spread like wildfire, but I stayed quiet. I didn't need to add fuel to the fire. At night, though, I thought about it endlessly, about how easily I could have been in that car, about how close I had come to stepping into something I might not have escaped. One evening, sitting on my bed with the glow of my lamp casting shadows on the walls, I whispered out loud, maybe just to hear it. Always trust your gut, and always listen to Mom, because that call had changed everything. It had shown me that danger doesn't always wear a scary mask. Sometimes it smiles, waves, and offers you a ride home. And the lesson I carried, the one I needed others to hear, was this. Pay attention to the people who truly care about you, the ones who will sound panicked, even beg if it means keeping you safe. My mom's voice that day, it didn't just save me. It reminded me that love sometimes comes in the form of a warning, sharp and desperate, but powerful enough to protect you from something you can't yet see. I didn't step into his car, and because of that, I'm here to tell this story. And that's the story of the phone call that changed everything. It taught me that sometimes the people we think we know best can hide the darkest secrets. But it also reminded me how powerful a mother's love and intuition can be. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps more people discover stories like this one. I'd love to hear from you too. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have trusted your best friend's dad, or listened to that gut-wrenching call from your mom? Share your thoughts down in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more intense, real-life storytelling like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and always trust the people who love you most.